So Donald Trump is a total blockhead, and today he is a literal blockhead. This is from the White House. They're tweeting out Donald Trump as a Roblox character. The White House is also saying America's most pro-gamer president, Golden Trophy. You can see it right there. Now, we got to talk about this because Trump just signed an executive order regarding AI. They signaled that they were going to do it. Today, he did it. I want to go through some of the details because there's some things that you may have missed. So, for example, from the White House, video game developers level up with R&D tax credit. Now, who do you think benefits from this? Obviously, video game companies. And in fact, one in particular is probably going to benefit quite a bit. And that's going to be Mr. Elon Musk. He's starting an AI game company thing. And essentially, if you can get tax credits and help from your buddy Trump, right, who you promote nonstop, Musk is building a team, and then you just off to the races. And so now the game plan here is get tax credits as much as you can from the Trump people, the same way that SpaceX or Tesla gets benefits from the government, these kind of things. And then you start to deregulate, so then no one checks up on what you're doing. This is Trump tweeting out. He says, there must be only one rule book if we are to continue to lead in AI. We are beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long. If we are going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, so Trump is going against all 50 states, I suppose, many of them bad actors, involved in the rules and approval process. So basically, forget states' rights. There can be no doubt about this. AI will be destroyed in its infancy. I will be doing a one rule executive order this week. I mentioned this before when I read this. I was like, it just sounds like Lord of the Rings kind of stuff. One ring to rule them all. You can't expect a company to get 50 approvals every time they want to work, want to do something. That will never work. So why bother with having states do what they want? And essentially, this is what was going on: is states are trying to regulate themselves, which I totally understand, right? The same way that, for example, we have different, say, driving laws for each state. It's different. Every state has different things like that. Any number of stuff that states can, legislate whatever they want. But Trump say, no, you can't. We have to have one rule.
Mr. President, as you said, in keeping with your commitment to grow the American economy, create potentially millions of new American jobs, and maintain America's technological and military superiority in the years ahead, this is an executive order that orders aspects of your administration to take decisive action to ensure that AI can operate within a single national framework in this country, as opposed to being subject to state-level regulation that could potentially cripple the industry. David Sachs, your AI and crypto czar, has been one of the key players and key authors behind this EO. He can give you more of the granular detail, but the big picture is that we're taking steps to ensure that AI operates under a single national standard so that we can reap the benefits that will come from it in terms of economic growth, job development, national security, and technological edge.
So that's one of Trump's advisors explaining the bill, et cetera. And it was very interesting. They literally tell you stuff that, oh, well, this is like the thing that David Sachs is working on. And Sachs is one of your Wall Street tech bros. He's got a podcast where he always complains about regulations, these kind of things. It's also ridiculous. They're all like Elon Musk people, basically. So, literally in the White House is that kind of thing. A bunch of, you could call it worm tongues circling around, trying to manipulate the president. Like, hey, we got this thing that, one of the Wall Street dudes wrote, and he thinks it's good, so therefore everyone else should think it's good too. Listen to Trump's reasoning. It's interesting. He's going to mention China here.
It's really the biggest industry that anybody's seen. I mean, it's taking off, and again, I believe there'll only be one country that really benefits, and it should be the United States, and it will be if we do this, if we're unified. We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He says do it, and that's the end of that. We have a different system, but we have a system that's good, but we only have a system that's good if it's smart. David Sachs, could you say a few words, please?
So what's crazy about this thing, I just want to point this out. Trump's basically saying, wow, China and Xi, they have a different system. Basically, you could say authoritarian. If I call it communist, you can. And we need to be more like them. That's basically what he's saying. I admire that they only got one party over there, one vote, whatever. Let's be more like them. It's crazy because, usually the Republicans are pushing states' rights where Trump is basically saying, no, we don't want all these 50 different processes, etc. There's David Sachs. He's going to explain what he thinks about the AI executive order.
Yes, sir. So as you pointed out, we have over 1,000 bills going through state legislatures right now to regulate AI. Over 100 of them have already passed. 25% of them are in California, New York, and Illinois. You've got 50 states running in 50 different directions. It just doesn't make sense. We're creating a confusing patchwork of regulation. And what we need is a single federal standard. And that's what the CEO says, sir, is it basically states that the policy of your administration is to create that federal framework. We're going to work with Congress, like the chairman here of the Commerce Committee, Senator Cruz, and other members of Congress to define that framework. In the meantime, this EO gives your administration tools to push back on the most onerous and excessive state regulations. We're not going to push back on all of them. For example, kid safety, we're going to protect. We're not pushing back on that, but we're going to push back on the most onerous examples of state regulations, sir.
So he doesn't define clearly what they consider to be onerous, regulations, but it could be any number of things like privacy issues. It could be regards to energy. Hey, we want to take your land and we want to start polluting your neighborhood. It could be any number of things. Before I told you guys the DeSantis Bill of Rights on AI, which is actually pretty interesting. They had a whole bunch of issues on that stuff. I don't care for DeSantis, but doesn't mean I disagree with like everything he says all the time. I mean, it was the Bill of Rights AI thing was actually pretty interesting. So I'll give you a simple example. What if a state passed a law that said, you know what? If you're going to do insurance in our state, you can't use AI to determine whether or not someone gets insurance or not, right? Whether or not there's coverage. That's a pretty interesting one. Another one I thought was really interesting one is, hey, if you go to a website and there's an AI chatbot, you have to let the customer know that it's an AI you're talking to, not a human. Like those are actually really interesting regulations. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we should be talking about. But you remember from the Trumps and the Musks and David Sachs now point of view is no regulations. Screw the states. You don't have a right to regulate. We got to keep up with China. It's so ludicrous. And you got this kind of stuff too. What else can you use AI for? This is a real book, I guess. It says The Birth of Jesus, narrated by your favorite president. Listen to this.
I have to show you guys the funniest Christmas gift that I'm getting my friends' children, and it's The Birth of Jesus, the story narrated by Trump. Yes, absolutely. I saw this in the TikTok shop. I'm like, I need a few of these, okay? So each page has this button, but the funniest thing is that the way that it's written and narrated is just like you would imagine Trump would narrate the story of Jesus, all right? Obviously graphics. All right, for example, right? Press this button.
Now Joseph, her fiance, he's a carpenter, builds tremendous stuff, finds out Mary's having a baby, and he's like, wait a minute.
I mean, if my energy bills are going to go up and you're going to pollute my environment and you're going to fire me, at least I get an AI-driven Trump book where Trump tells me the story of Jesus. Wow, fantastic. That's exactly what I want during periods of significant CapEx spending, particularly related to AI. And they're also talking about credit default swaps. I just wanted to bring this stuff up because that was happening today. Basically, Oracle was having a meltdown, and many of the AI stocks are falling because the revenue isn't necessarily keeping up. And so what does Trump do? Wow, let's deregulate things. And this is a test, honestly, the Trump administration is a test of your critical thinking skills. And I want to show you something. Look at this. From the White House. Gas prices dropping, okay, and American energy restored. Drill, baby, drill. And when you read this thing, again, this is a test of your critical thinking skills. See if you can spot the problem. Gas prices dropping, and this big number, 91%. And then you read the, small print. In a White House email survey, 91% noticed a drop in gas prices since President Trump took office. Think about that. So, they act like this is some, big survey kind of thing, but the email survey could just be, hey, we emailed a couple people, one of them being Trump, maybe we emailed Trump's kids, and they send us back, oh yeah, gas prices are down. And then they put this. Like, this is how stupid we are right now, is this is such obvious propaganda, but, I guess there's some people who do fall for it.
They're 26% more expensive this year because of Trump's tariffs. Was that key holiday items, so there are lots of the items, like, for example, mini speakers, metal water bottles.
And I'm just showing you this because it's fascinating. Guys, how much stuff costs. Stuff costs are going up and down. You don't need a White House email to other White House people to tell you what the prices are. You already know. But it's interesting though, because Fox News does tell the truth sometimes. There's the price of things are going up. You also have this. I guess they're going to communicate to us via TikTok. This is the cabinet. Great. TikTok, fantastic. And then you also have this, because the AI stuff isn't done yet. This is actually pretty big news. There's a lot to go over today. Disney on Thursday announced that it will make a $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI. Wow. And will allow users to make videos with its copyrighted characters across Disney, Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, and Sora. On Sora. Now, what's interesting about this kind of stuff is in the era, if you know, all this stuff is relatively new, if you were to regulate it, for example, I mean, you may have some serious monopoly issues with OpenAI. I've noticed that OpenAI has done all sorts of partnerships with all sorts of companies. For example, here in Korea, we use a chat service called Kakao Talk. It's very, very popular. It's kind of like WhatsApp. And like there's a button for ChatGPT on there. And it's like, you know, did any other company have a chance to get their button on there? And is ChatGPT going to basically be pre-installed in all our devices now? You never know. I mean, that's like a monopoly type of practice. And it's very interesting that Disney is then now getting in bed with OpenAI. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. And this I just saw this just a few minutes ago. So I'm sure there's going to be pushback on this kind of stuff, be it from artists, be it from other companies like, hey, what's going on here? You know, this is a Ted Cruz talking about his opinion. I just want to give you different points of view. Cruz says, President Trump took an important step today to promote American leadership in AI. We don't want China's values of surveillance and communist control governing AI. We want American values of free speech, individual liberty, and respect for the individual. And it's so funny because it's just gaslighting nonstop. That's why I show you guys multiple things. See my last video, but basically there was a hearing today on Capitol Hill. Basically, there's big concerns that Palantir is working with the Trump people to build a database on all of your data of just regular people, right? Because it was recently, we talked to the gentleman from Minnesota who was detained. Please watch that video if you haven't seen it already. But basically, he was saying the ICE officers are like really insistent on wanting to scan his face. And then the talk in the last video on the thing on Capitol Hill, they're just talking about how usually when you access people's data, you need to get a warrant, this kind of stuff. But in this era, this is why you'd want say something to be regulated, to be like, hey, we don't necessarily want AI to be, you know, collecting and consolidating data on everyone and building these databases. And it's the way Cruz like talks about this stuff is ludicrous, because if he really was concerned about you, he wouldn't be, you know, supporting Trump and signing the bill that says, you know, we're going to only have one rule book thing. Do you see how ludicrous this stuff is? But, you know, their supporters, all you have to do, and let's be frank, for Trump MAGA people, you just wave a flag and say, freedom, democracy, yeah, right? And then you show them a bunch of videos on TikTok, and that's how you convince people, I guess. Trump actually was freaking out on this. This is from the Wall Street Journal. I showed you this before already. But basically, China's electricity capacity is going to be going up by the year 2030. They're building out infrastructure. The USA is going to be behind. And this is a crazy thing because energy demand is also increasing in USA because of all of this supposed AI need. I guess I really need my Trump voiced Jesus book. So then Trump tweets this out. The Wall Street Journal has another ridiculous story today that China is dominating us and the world on the production of electricity having to do with AI. They're wrong as usual. So that's from Trump, and he goes on, blah, 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 and then we're going to be great again. And if you wonder why things are the way that they are in the USA, is because a lot of people, they don't understand or pay attention to this stuff, right? Yeah, I show you the memes and they're funny and that kind of stuff like that. But pay attention. Why are we doing video game stuff? Because they benefit video game companies. Well, why suddenly video game companies, you follow the money? Oh, it's Elon Musk, right? The same way with the executive order and the AI stuff. Why are we doing this? How does it affect your life? Put in the most simplest terms, if you care about your privacy, if you care about data, if you care about your jobs, and if you care about your electric bill, do pay attention to this stuff. It does matter. So I do appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.